I haven't been actively following all the MrBeast drama, and have only picked up little pieces here and there so far. Because of this, I thought a big ol' video that popped into my recommended bar called The Truth About MrBeast and DogPack404 would be a wonderful way to catch up on all of it. Turns out, I didn't really take in any of the accusations or rebuttals though, as I found myself much more interested in Soggy Cereal, the video's creator, himself. You see, prior to watching it, I checked out his Twitter feed, where he mentioned a couple times in a thread that he felt used. Supposedly because MrBeast is spreading Soggy's latest video to shield himself. Now, that struck me immediately as an extremely suspicious choice of language. To feel used, taken advantage of. It implies some sort of relationship. Dear listener, imagine saying that you feel used because a stranger shared your video around. So, I scrolled his replies a little bit and found this tweet he posted a day after publishing a now privated video about slop content wherein he slams MrBeast's critic, DogPack404, on October 13th. I guess MrBeast decided to follow me after I published my video, he said. No idea why I should be in control for who he does/doesn't follow, but okay. Sure, of course. Okay, not his fault he was followed, but it is interesting to note that MrBeast or someone managing the account took immediate notice, almost as if some sort of scouting is occurring. One of MrBeast's employees also took extremely quick notice and was very well prepared to make contact with a sympathetic content creator. Hey, Soggy, I'm Dustin Harris. I've been working at Beast for about 6 years now. I saw your slop video and wanted to help set the record straight about some of the misinformation online. To be clear, I think there's a lot of fair criticism out there, but at this point it's majority misinformation and slander, not just against Jimmy, but against the work I do and the work my colleagues do. Soggy Cereal describes Dustin 3 times in his video as having, quote-unquote, gone rogue. But he seems to me to be in lockstep with his employer, having contacted Soggy Cereal within a day of the MrBeast account following him on Twitter. I know this because Soggy included a date in one of his screenshots of his conversation with Dustin, which was October 14th, 1 day after the Soggy Slop video was posted. Damn, MrBeast's lackey was right in there, providing all sorts of video evidence and goodies lickety-split. Goodies including expensive flights to help him make a better video, and apparently hotel accommodation. No, I am not joking. And no, he did not mention this financial connection to a source of his coverage in the video itself or the description at time of writing, instead opting to include a silly little pretend sequence of booking a flight.
Since DogPack404 declined every interview offer, the only other place I could dig up the truth is in the belly of the beast.
Oh man, North Carolina?
Isn't that the boring part of the US?
Oh well.
Cute. Except he wasn't just faking it for entertainment in the video. He didn't buy a flight in real life either, as he admitted to friend of the channel Chud Logic in one of the most suspicious displays I've seen in a while.
One thing I actually wanted to ask, just as a kind of matter of record, is you obviously flew to America, right?
Yeah.
Did you cover those costs yourself, or did MrBeast in any way pay?
I'm gonna be honest on that. So I offered to do interviews to Dustin, and so I was the one who offered that, to want to do interviews. I reached out to Dustin about that after he reached out to me. He said that he wanted to do an interview and maybe try to ask some other employees if they wanted to do interviews. But since it was last moment and very expensive, Dustin, as far as I know, paid for those, and not on a MrBeast card, because when I got at like the hotel, which they said that it was on the card of like literally his name, like his personal card, not non-company cards. And that's all I know.
That's all I know, I swear. I don't even know how that boarding pass got in my hand. Quite a lot happens in that clip, but I didn't want to interrupt him. Let's think about what was just said, because I don't think many of the people who've heard this clip have recognized just how much of a car crash what just happened was. So much so that I'd love to have access to those logs if they didn't arrange this over voice. This is some real panicked bullshitting. Because he knows what happened is suspect as all hell. How do I know that? Here's a clue. In Soggy's conversation with Dustin, where did he tell us the idea of him flying out came from? I don't think that was made clear at all. In response to being asked if he paid for his own flights, Soggy emphatically states twice that he's the one who offered to do interviews. So does that mean Soggy's the one who suggested flying out to them? That would be crazy. He told Chud seconds later, remember, that he's too broke for that. Plus, we know from the screenshots he shared of his conversation with DogPack404 that he's happy to conduct interviews via the web. This all means that if Soggy was the one who suggested flying out there, he was fishing for money to be spent on him by a source who he knows was likely scouting for someone like him and who wants particular outcomes from cooperation with a video creator. Not great, to say the least, for myriad reasons. Now what if, on the other hand, Dustin was the one who brought up the idea of flying him out there? How do we get from that to Dustin paying for it? Soggy, as we just heard in his chat with Chud, says that the reason it was paid for was that it was last minute and so expensive. Soggy said he just didn't have the funds. This implies that he would have been the one paying for it if he had the money for it, which means he must have communicated this to Dustin. In other words, this guy investigating MrBeast and DogPack told us that he let a MrBeast employee know that he was broke and then had a significant amount of money, totally unnecessarily, spent on him by said supposedly rogue employee. There is no possible scenario that aligns with everything he said being true that isn't also totally screwed. But there is another option, one I lean towards believing, in fact, that Soggy is lying and the whole shebang was simply offered to him by Dustin. Remember, Soggy told us his hotel was booked with Dustin's card. Is this guy so broke that he needed one night's accommodation paid for as well? Or did he take it purely because it was offered? Granted, I say one night, but don't actually know how long he was there for certain. What I am certain of, though, is that he felt like Dustin's little special guy the whole time. Just in case Soggy ever ends up rubbing his two brain cells together over what I've just said, I think it's worth explaining that if it was offered to him and he accepted because he was broke, that doesn't mean it was paid for because he was broke. Those are two very different things. The two cherries on top of this diarrhea sundae are that he thinks it couldn't have been beast money spent on him because he's apparently never heard of reimbursement of business expenses, and that he's either genuinely severely retarded and doesn't understand why all this should absolutely have been disclosed to his audience, or he's evil and scrambling for excuses. Check this madness out.
That's fine. I don't necessarily think
yeah.
that's an issue, but I don't know if I maybe missed it. Was that said in the video, or is it somewhere in your description, just to really get it clear that happened?
No, it's not in the video.
No, sure. I mean, obviously, you know, it's up to you what you do. I would say that just putting that in there somewhere, like as a comment or a thing, would probably just in case it comes up, like that could be a line of attack, right? Like you were paid to go out there.
I get that.
Yeah.
I think what I might do is, like, I'm obviously gonna have some. But I don't know if I can say this, but I'm obviously gonna have some interviews or whatever with people, and I'm 100% sure that they're gonna ask me this question, and I'm again just gonna be transparent about that. And if it are like decently sized creators, and so I feel like it's gonna spread around like that. And if not, then I'll put it in the description.
I am genuinely stunned. In the name of transparency, he's holding off simply adding a line disclosing his financial connection to a source that he heavily relies on and trusts in his video, because he expects his disclosure to be spread via interviews with large creators. And then if that doesn't happen to his satisfaction, he'll enact the labor of adding a sentence to the video's description. What in the hell is wrong with this guy? Accepting such major favors that can benefit you financially, make the video better, make it pop off, aside from just saving you the cost of a hotel and flights. Accepting such major favors from an interested party in your investigation is bad enough, and I would greatly prefer no one did such things. But if you disclose it, the public can at least take that into consideration. Make any attempt to obscure such arrangements, though, at all, and that part, specifically the hiding of it, is a hammer to the skull of your credibility. And in light of my newfound utter disbelief of anything this guy says that isn't backed up with concrete evidence, I'd like to share another beautiful little snippet of ChudLogic's interview.
Jimmy didn't he didn't know who I interviewed. He didn't know, he knew that Dustin was talking to me and stuff.
Yeah.
To some extent.
Thanks for telling us that MrBeast was in communication with the guy who paid for all this stuff and knew you were chatting. I think everyone who's watched your video should know this. Too late for that now, I'd say, but they should have had the opportunity to decide what that means to them.
Yeah.
But he didn't know who I was interviewing. He didn't know about the leaked DogPack firing interview. He was really not involved into this, and I wanted to make sure.
He wanted to make sure, guys. Wait. How exactly did he make sure MrBeast didn't know any of this? Do you think he trusted the guy who dropped the chunk of change on him, perhaps? Dustin, the guy who invested money in making sure Soggy's video would be higher quality and show them in the best light possible, while also probably making Soggy more money too. The guy we know was in communication with MrBeast regarding his connection to Soggy. I'm really starting to think this kind of behavior could breed bias, Anyway, it continues.
Because at first I wanted to interview Jimmy, but then when I was talking to Dustin, I realized maybe I shouldn't interview Jimmy and I should completely leave him out of this.
Oh, Dustin again. And Soggy simply, out of nowhere, realized MrBeast shouldn't be seen anywhere near this project while talking to Dustin. I'm sure that was entirely original thought on his part, and not once suggested by his pal. He goes on to explain that he thought he shouldn't interview MrBeast because MrBeast would be too biased.
Because if I interview him, that might, Jimmy obviously will be unbiased. And so, his employees are obviously also... Jimmy won't be unbiased. And his employees are obviously also not completely unbiased, they work at the company. But it's still different, But yeah, those...
Me getting plane tickets? Hotel stay? Not a cause of concern regarding bias at all. No one needs to know, really. Direct access to question and challenge the subject of my investigation? No, he's too biased. I hate that I feel I need to explain this, but that is not a problem if you are competent and not compromised. And if you aren't both of those things, you shouldn't be interviewing anyone because you are just a propaganda sponge. And note, he was happy to interview DogPack. DogPack declined, but he would have. DogPack isn't too biased? Or is it that he's more willing to be adversarial with DogPack? Seems like he does understand the idea of challenging someone. I understand, though, it gets way harder to be adversarial with people who are paying for stuff for you. And hey, if he had an interview with MrBeast after having flights paid for, that looks really bad, doesn't it? Uh-oh, like you're being 100% undeniably being worked for PR, as opposed to just, 90%. Fun fact time. It doesn't even actually matter if that is what was happening. Through his actions, he's created an appearance of impropriety. This is still doing something wrong, as even if what you're presenting is all true, it does a disservice to the truth by leading people to doubt it. Now, on that point of things being true or getting things right, maybe this guy rules at debunking DogPack 9 times out of 10. I lack some of the necessary context on certain things and didn't care to check others, but an example or two did stand out to me as I casually watched. Like DogPack's claim that he thinks a promise of MrBeast and crew signatures, where the MrBeast signature isn't scribed by him, is fraud. As in, false advertising. Specifically, not forgery, as Soggy will imply DogPack is suggesting.
So here's a clip of Tyler using MrBeast's signature.
And that devalues it as a collector's item.
You know, some people bought these shirts as collector's items or even investments, and this puts into question the authenticity of all MrBeast signed merch, which otherwise could have been very valuable one day.
Soggy tries to shoot that down by stating that you can legally sign things on others' behalf if given consent, and by asserting that that doesn't devalue the signature.
Completely legal and fine to use someone else's signature if they gave you formal consent to do so, and it doesn't devalue the signature.
I'm sorry. A lot of people apparently love his video. Maybe if you're invested, then it's fun to watch him tear into DogPack. But the guy's dumb as a brick. He doesn't even comprehend the exceedingly simple to understand critique of fellow mental invalid DogPack here. It's like watching Beatles fight. One more little thing before we push on that just came to mind. I couldn't stop laughing at the first interview in this video. See, DogPack got his hands on a clip of a guy that was recorded without his knowledge and leaked him. This led to people recognizing him. Soggy interviewed this guy over the web. Guess he didn't need to fly out for this one. He interviewed him and got him to state over and over how much harm his statements being leaked has caused him, his finances, and his relationships due to what he said, demonstrating over and over how much incentive he has to now lie and sweep up after himself, saying he was bullshitting in the secret recording, and didn't, for 1 millisecond, touch on that possibility, just ate it right up. Alright, despite the title of this video, that's enough Soggy bashing. Time to grab Beast by the horns. Or at least a handful of Beast employees. I think it's obvious why MrBeast wouldn't want to be associated directly with any of this, even if he's aware already. But there are more people involved than those I've introduced so far. Soggy flew out and interviewed multiple Beast employees. Funnily enough, he actually name-doxed one with a crappy censor before fixing it, by the way, but that's not important. He talked to a few of them and, in my opinion, they acted like unprofessional losers. We are talking about current employees of Beast flying an influencer out to be a mouthpiece for their gossip against an ex-employee, including a hiring manager who used to be MrBeast's HR.
When someone reports something to HR, which would have been me at the time because it was years ago.
Their attacks really started with a cringe leaked recording of DogPack being fired and eventually led to people painting him as a pest to be around.
Can you tell me a bit about your relationship with Dawson during both of you guys working there? Was there something that felt off?
Yeah, so I mean, me and Dawson were cordial. I tried to keep it professional. I think he tried his best to keep it professional, but I will say it was a little uncomfortable with just me and him in the office. He seemed pretty disinterested in making genuine connections with people at the company. He gave weird vibes for sure, and I felt very uncomfortable working in the office with him. He didn't seem to work too well with others.
He gave weird vibes. Icky. Thanks, Emily of MrBeast. Nice caliber of employee running around representing the company. Probably the heaviest blow in the whole video is the claim that DogPack has prevented people from being able to walk.
We're doing a video where we're trying to help people walking.
Yeah, I know about that. Yeah.
Actively, partners have pulled out because of these videos. There are people who will not walk or will have to delay in them walking because of the videos that DogPack made.
And then it cuts to him talking about something else. Soggy, buddy, you're not gonna probe that at all? I guess he could have and not included it, but I'd personally be very curious to know more details if I was told this. Did the partners cite DogPack's vids directly as a reason for deciding they don't care so much about people being able to walk anymore? Was it more the general maelstrom caused by them that made their partners say, screw them kids? Or did Hoodie simply deduce DogPack must be why their partners stopped wanting to help the disadvantaged? We know Soggy was all fired up by this point, as he says to Chud Logic.
I was fucking boiling inside when I heard that, like, what Dawson is doing with this disgruntled employee is hurting philanthropy. It's making it so that less people would get, like, prosthetics to walk again and shit. And at that point, I was like, yeah, this guy should get sued. Dawson should get sued. He should get whatever backlash and consequences that can come from him slandering the entire MrBeast company this much. And at that point, like, I was still a little bit open-minded to Dawson maybe having some good intentions. But from that point, I was like, yeah, no, he's just awful. He's just an awful person, and he deserves every consequence that could come from whatever my video does, you know?
Soggy frequently rails against manipulation in his video, but he's been filtered by the philanthropy shield. When he's brought to a point of extreme emotion, all the way to stating malice here, he doesn't for a second consider he might have been toyed with a little bit. Soggy acknowledges there are legit problems with MrBeast, perhaps legitimate problems that would make a partner pull out, I might suggest. Did you press this guy for specifics of exactly why these partners pulled out, and how he knows there's no other cause, even one little bit, to make sure he's not distorting the truth? If you did, you didn't include it. Why not, if this is such a big deal to you? Maybe Soggy's right, and it is 100% on DogPack and his videos, with no blame at all even to the partners who believed some internet schizo, or who themselves cared more about the PR impact of internet drama than helping the disabled. But I'd suggest it is very important to make sure you weren't being fed a line by a man whose relationship with DogPack was described like this.
It seemed like he had no respect for Hoodie. He didn't take any of Hoodie's advice. It seemed like he didn't think he knew what Hoodie was doing. But yeah, Dawson definitely did not like Hoodie. Yeah, did not like Hoodie, did not show him any respect.
Look, DogPack obviously has personal beef, but so very, very clearly do all of these people too, from before DogPack's videos. I mean, he talked about info on what was occurring being contained such that MrBeast had no idea who would be interviewed, but even the chef, who supposedly wasn't planned to be included, was in on this.
Hey, this is Emily from Ideation.
Hey Emily, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm doing alright,
Cool. Well, I'm here with Soggy. I wanted to ask you, I have a question to ask you about Dawson.
Just a quick, I'm here with Soggy, and the guy knew exactly what she meant. Soggy was in a hyena's den. Look, I'm not saying I would ever, in a million years, want to hang out or work with DogPack. Ever. However, just because he started it, doesn't mean you should, as representatives of the company, all get together to retaliate in kind. I mean, for my personal enjoyment, it's great, so don't stop for my sake, but if, you know, you guys don't want to be known as the scumbag, gossiping bitch company that will pay for a YouTuber to fly out and shit on an ex-employee on camera, working the influencer into a fervor to defend your honor in the names of cripples you claim DogPack harmed. In other words, if you don't want this company to look like a bottom-of-the-barrel dementoid circus comprised of wannabe reality show rejects, perhaps it's in your interest to not do this. There are many, many other ways to tackle it. And if MrBeast is cool with this and lets all this slide, then that must be the kind of company he wants to run. I'd also find it very hard to believe he's not in on it. As a last quick message, Soggy Cereal, thinking back to the tweets I read at the start, you shouldn't feel used by MrBeast. You didn't bend over for him, and even had some criticisms to share. You did, though, willingly get on your knees to be throat-pumped by his gaggle of goons, which I'm sure you understood was happening, and I'm sure you enjoyed as well. But, as usual, that's just another one of my harmful opinions.